I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but there's the film director, if that's going to pull in. I don't know if it is or not, but it's Versus. And this is a movie that I've heard all kinds of stuff about and have a bit of a history with because I didn't know about the releases and how they differed of Versus back in the day. So I remember getting the, I think it was the Tokyo Shock, Media Blasters, whatever it was, Blu-ray, or excuse me, DVD of this. And it was the one that had all the gore cut out. And I remember hearing like how this was kind of like an Evil Dead type thing, where, or at least it resembled Evil Dead in some ways, and how violent it was. And I remember when I watched it, I was like, well, that doesn't seem very violent or, no more over the top in gore than anything else I've seen. And then come to find out later on that it was a release that they did for some reason that didn't have nothing that it should have had with it. And then later on, they released a steelbook version of Ultimate Versus, which I also bought, but I never watched it. So I didn't know the difference in that. But the original version, which has the blood and gore, and the Ultimate version, which has a little bit, enhanced gore effects and some extra footage shot, is both here on Arrow Video's Versus release. And this one, if you can make that out, hopefully you can. I think my lighting's a little bit bad, but it's not hard to find. But disc 1 is the regular Versus. Disc 2 is Ultimate Versus. This one here puts it together in all of its kind of, I don't want to say lo-fi, but it isn't going to look that great because of what it was shot on. But it looks good enough. And all the violence is here. And basically, you got a prisoner whose name is Prisoner whatever. Him and a dude escapes, and they go to meet this gang that this guy wants to meet. And they just so happen to do it in a place called the Resurrection Forest. So long story short, things get out of hand, people get killed, and people come back. And that's where your Evil Dead sort of things come into play there. It's in the woods, and there's like zombie type things going on. But it gets super ultra violent. And we also learn that perhaps there's more going on than what we think. And of course, the intro of the movie kind of hints at that, and then we figure it out, and then there's like the whole thing at the very end of it, which is a whole other thing in itself. But nonetheless, Versus is fun, and seeing it here in its glory with the blood and the gore intact, I definitely liked it way more than I did when I watched the one that didn't have all that intact, because that's kind of like 90% of the selling point of this is the blood and the gore, and it gets pretty gory and pretty violent, which is great for me. But the only thing I wish this would have had on it, it didn't have like the short film that inspired it. The short film that this was originally going to be a sequel of before we did something different with it. I wish it had been here. And unless I'm missing something, it's not on here. But nonetheless, there is a 20-minute version of this that's kind of just trimmed down to the point. So that's here for whatever reason. But since it is Arrow Video, first of all, it's 4 out of 5 for me. Don't look that great, but it looks good enough. And since that's out of the way, we will look at it. There is the inside cover, which is the same as the outside slipcase. Inside of it, we've got a little card for JSA, which I actually have this one. Haven't watched it yet, but I do have that one. We've got a booklet showing us some cool pictures. And of course, if you read the booklet, which why wouldn't you? It's got some more pictures and some cool stuff about the history of the movie in it. Can't go wrong with that. Disc 1, regular Versus. Disc 2, Ultimate Versus. And if you want to pop that out, you'll notice the more traditional cover that all the other Versus titles seem to have, with the main character holding a gun and holding a sword. But like I said, 4 out of 5. Way better than the old version from Media Blasters, which at the time, if I knew what that was, I should have researched better. At the time, if I knew what that was, I never would have bought that. I would have just waited and got the Ultimate Versus to start with, which I'm an idiot because I got it and it's a steelbook and it's cool. When I just set it up, I never watched it. But this is what you want, and this movie is way better than perhaps you might think it is if you just seen the Media Blasters version before. But that's from Arrow. It's out right now. Highly recommend this one.